With Dungeons & Dragons, there are several things in mind. There is the Dungeon Master, who controls the world and crafts the story, and the player, who works alongside and against the Dungeon Master. These two elements create conflict, simply because of the opposing ideals and challenges each set out against each other, where both sides have a story they want to tell. This allows them to have to compromise, adapt, and innovate spontaneously. This is where Dungeons & Dragons is born. Thus, with the film, where interactivity is limited to passivity, what makes Daly and Goldstein fit for the task is the very essence of not just the game, but also story, conflict, and resolution. While it is most apparent in the text of the film as the overarching theme for most of the characters, especially when it is set up from the beginning that failure is the underlying message, ingenuity after failure is what makes up the multiple scenarios that makes up the rest of the story. Therefore, what we have is the formula for the film. We have a character having a problem, they fail, it becomes the new status quo, and they work with it. This creates a more fascinating form of resolution, as in most conventional Hollywood films, conflicts are usually solved as soon as they come up, or they are solved through the attainment of power or influence. However, within Honor Among Thieves, the conflict becomes what remains. And yet, the characters learn to live with their failure and create a new branching story for themselves. The failure then works as a reflection of consequence, which drives the very idea of story as is most often understood, by the very act of cause and effect. This manages to give off the appearance of Dungeons & Dragons because due to the fluid nature and conflicting storytellers of the second-person perspective game, we are able to have a new story that's ripe with creative problem solving for both storytellers to figure out. By adapting it into film, while you are taking away from that spontaneity, you can still figure out how conflict can arise and turn that very concept into world and character building, while also utilizing it in a way that very few conventional films normally would.